Hi, everyone. Welcome to another weekly Melting Pot episode. Today, my conversation is with someone who's very, very accomplished. Her name is Juste Onute. Please correct me. Onutite. Onutite.
Yes, Jonutyte. Thank you. Yes.
Okay.
Not an easy name to say, I guess. Maybe I should have an easier international name.
No, it's fine, but I had to give it my best shot anyways.
I'd say you're very good. Yeah.
Thank you. So Uste is a contemporary art expert. She's an art historian. She's a curator and also the founder of Tempa Projects. Thank you so much for joining me today. We're going to be talking a lot about art, and I'm really, really excited.
Yes, thank you for inviting me to have this conversation. It's actually my first one in Singapore, so...
Well, yeah, I mean, I may be based in Singapore and you're in Lithuania, correct?
Yes, I just got back from the Venice Architecture Biennial just yesterday, but yes, I'm currently based in Vilnius.
Okay, great. Yeah. So, I mean, we are literally on opposite sides of the globe, but my podcast, and of course it's on YouTube as well, so I have listeners and viewers all over the world.
That's a great thing about podcasts.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, you can just reach out to so many people, and the kind of feedback that I get is so amazing, where people come back to me and saying, oh really, we learned something so unusual with the conversation that you had with your guest. So yeah, I mean, I think it's just so broad and so global, and very exciting.
Absolutely.
Me as well, because I get to learn about so many different, very, very interesting, passions that different people have. So it's not about me, it's about you today. So Uste, tell me where, you are originally from Lithuania, but I read in your bio that you studied in Scotland.
So exactly. Well, just before I started my studies at university, Lithuania joined the European Union. So just 2 years later, I could choose, any European Union country to study. And it happened so that I chose Scotland for my studies because it's one of the few countries which really allows to study 2 different subjects in your undergrad, 2 or even 3 subjects. And I'm someone who's always had very different interests. So in my high school, mathematics was kind of the focus subject, but I also really love history, languages, literature. So I did want to study like 2 really different subjects, and this is the the unique thing about studying in Scotland, that I could really just study art history and also do economics or management at the same time. And this is why I picked Scotland.
Okay. So was art history something that you were always interested in?
Well, it's definitely something I was always interested in, but I don't come with a family with any artistic background, so it wasn't really running in the family. But I did have like a great art history teacher at school. It's not a compulsory subject, so it just was a coincidence, that I had this. And yes, I guess, I was just, I grew up traveling a lot around Europe, and I visited museums such as the Louvre, or some museums in Florence, and I was really acquainted with art history just from seeing it from a very early age. So I guess, yeah, that's all. But I really, at that point, I wasn't really sure that I wanted to do art history. I applied for 6 different universities and 6 different subjects, and I also got accepted into a filmmaking program, into a marketing program. So it was really just that Scotland and St. Andrews was like the only place where I could do more subjects than just one.
Yeah. Okay. Interesting. And obviously, you were meant to, you were meant to make this your career, which is why the universe kind of sent you in that direction. So what?
Perhaps. Yeah.
So when did you set up Tema projects?
So it was maybe four years ago. I was still running another big institution at the time called Rupert, which I joined in 2013, which really focused on artist residencies, exhibitions, and education for the young generation of artists. Then on the side, I started this other project, which really, the focus is more on the art market and education for more general audiences. So not specifically professionals of art, which was Rupert, but more aimed at people who are interested maybe either to learn more about like contemporary art history, or to start collecting contemporary art.
Okay.
And now, I left my other position 2 years ago, and I've been doing this project full time since then.
Okay, so you, I understand you are involved in artist residencies. Is that correct?
Exactly. I was for 6 years. Now I'm just, a board member. So I'm not working with residents, on daily basis, but more on like strategic matters, maybe a couple times a year. Okay. But yes, for 6 years, it was my daily job to oversee the program, to select, about 30 artists and curators who would be coming to Vilnius every year. And then to work with them on daily basis with their projects. And they were really diverse because we're really dealing with contemporary art, and the project could be about anything. I've searched for a clairvoyant, I've searched for, neo-pagan movements, and so just anything you could think of.
Okay. So it's not really, it wasn't really focused on visual arts per se.
It was, this is visual, this is all visual, within the field of visual arts.
Visual arts. Okay, fine.
Just visual artists, they also had their own fields of research, which are really broad and really different project to project.
Okay, yeah, sorry, yeah, I misunderstood, but thanks for clarifying.
Of course. Yeah, I guess when you think of visual arts, most people just immediately think about painting. I don't know what you were thinking, but painters were maybe like a small part of the residency. We really had really different, subjects within the visual arts, from starting from performance art to video art, installation, sculptures, could be even, a computer artwork, So right. Contemporary art, it's very diverse.
Yeah, that's true.
Painting or drawing just.
And also, did they come from different parts of Europe, or you specifically encouraged artists from within Lithuania?
It was primarily an international residency program, so I would say 95% of our residents came from abroad, because usually that's the idea. You want to go to another country to do a residency, to expand your network, to discover new things for your research. But it wasn't just Europe. They were mostly from Europe, but we really had, residents coming from Australia, Canada, any country, really. Probably from Singapore too.
Okay. Yeah, I'm sure. Yeah, I mean, because there's a lot of Singapore is very rapidly growing in within the art space, and so I am not surprised if you've had artists from Singapore as well. So tell me more about you as a curator.
Mm-hmm. The term of curating is really broad. So most common understanding is that it's usually an exhibition curator, so someone who organizes the show. If it's a historical artist, when they conduct the research and then select the works that should be in the show. And if the artist is alive, which is mostly the case with the shows I curate, I mostly work with contemporary artists. So then it's really a dialogue between the curator, which is myself, and the artist. And we decide together what should go in the show. And in my case, I usually like to work with new commissions. So I like to encourage the artist to do something new for the space. But also curating, it can be curating a public program. So it can be curating different lectures, performances. And now this year, or I guess it's just been 5 months this year, I've been working on curating or editing a magazine online, which will include different contributions, so texts, but also photographs and drawings. So really curating can be a very broad term, and
broad, yeah.
Projects are really they really range.
Okay, and so the online magazine, is that an idea that came to you because of the pandemic that we've been experiencing since last year? Is that what prompted you to start? Because there may have been limitations with you connecting with artists on a one-to-one basis, as in in person. Is that what the idea behind it was?
Well, I didn't initiate the project, so the magazine board invited me to do a special issue of the magazine, but I'm sure it's somehow connected to the pandemic, because all the contemporary art institutions are really shifting more and more towards digital. And obviously, so this is connected to funding as well, but there may be allocating more budget towards a digital magazine than they would towards put towards like a show in some countries now. Obviously in Lithuania, where I was based during the pandemic, museums were mostly working. They were closed for the winter, so for 3 months. But now every single gallery and museum is open in my country. That's not the case in each country, but that's the case here. So I would say it's, both. Maybe the direction that the art world was already slightly moving towards, but also very affected by the pandemic as well.
So yeah. So I guess that's, I mean, it's a shift in a lot of different industries, not just the arts after what's happened last year, and it seems to continue with in 2021 as well. So just moving away,
Absolutely, and into the future.
yeah, into the future. I mean, I don't think it's going away in a hurry, and the new normal is going to be very, very different from what, you know, we what was so what was a given, what was just so, no one even thought that something like this could happen. So I think, yeah, the new normal is something that we'll have to adapt to, and it's going to be very, very different. But moving away a little bit.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
I was just in Venice Architecture Biennial last week, and the whole biennial was canceled last year due to the pandemic, but this year they decided to go for it and to still open up. But it's a very different event than all the other years. It's really, so many pavilions that instead of a show, you have like a QR code which you just scan, and the pavilion is fully online and not present physically in Venice. And then other pavilions, they really were affected either in their form or in their subject by this. And obviously, usually the preview week, it's just full of viewers from all around the world, and it was really primarily just Italians and then some Europeans, but they really hardly had anyone from other countries. So I guess it's really something that will be affecting the arts field, and as you mentioned, other fields for the next few years.
So you think, I mean, how do you personally feel about it? Because yes, things are moving more, you know, the contemporary art is moving more towards digital, but from actually, you know, being able to stand in front of an art piece, or the interactions are changing, you know, it's becoming less of that human, you know, that emotion of when you're in front of a painting and you actually see it. The kind of reaction that you would have would probably be, or will be, completely different from when you see a piece of art on your computer screen. So how do you, as an art historian, curator, how do you feel about it personally?
Well, I think there are many things I feel. So it depends on the exact direction of the subject. But I really am very bored when some museums just take a very conventional approach, and they think that they can just digitize their physical collection of art and just put it online, and then people will be interested. It's really not the case. The institutions that will really win the audience, they will really go for creating work specifically for the digital format, or finding new ways to engage their audiences through either certain virtual tours that are interactive and interesting, exciting, or through educational programs. But also another thing that I really notice is that everyone is really really turning back towards their local art scenes. So they're really getting much stronger in a sense. And this is the same for me. I would miss so many shows normally in Lithuania, but I've seen so many shows since since everything started last year, because I was traveling, 90% less than is normal. And I was really able to, engage more with the local art scene. And I've noticed the same thing, with LA collectors. The sales for galleries, they really dropped, in the first weeks of the pandemic, but then they really increased and almost reached, their pre-pandemic levels, just because people really had time to explore art, to go to galleries once they were open, and to see the artworks when they were usually, too busy to do that. And so I think there are many different things that are happening, and those who can really adjust and engage rather than those who are trying the conventional ways will be the winners of this situation.
Right. Yeah. So tell me a little bit about Lithuanian art. What are some of the very, very unique aspects of the Lithuanian art? I mean, are the artists, what is more in focus with the contemporary artists?
Well, just like any country, there are such, diverse points of interest and artists and their practices. It's probably same as in every country, but what I consider, the strongest part of contemporary art in Lithuania, I guess it's more experimental and more conceptual in a way. And also it's interdisciplinary. So it means it's joining several different, disciplines. And an example of that is the Lithuanian pavilion in the last Venice Art Biennial, not this year, but 2 years ago.
Yeah.
Which won the Golden Lion Award in Venice as the best national pavilion. And it's a contemporary performance opera, which really talks about, the climate change issues in a very, in a serious but also non-patronizing way. So this is one example of what contemporary art in Lithuania is doing. It's really, strong in the field of like performance and contemporary opera. And I would say also other conceptual and site-specific projects as well. So we really have a whole generation of artists who are in their 20s and 30s, who are really working internationally, but are based in Vilnius, such as Emilia Škarnulytė, who won the Pinchuk Arts Prize with her video installation, and Augustas Sarapinas, who was also participating in the Venice Biennial, Robertas Narkus, who will be the next Venice Biennial artist. So all of these artists are really young, they're working internationally. Their work is very conceptual, but also very responsive to what's happening right now. Or objects, installations, and performances.
Interesting. Yeah. And Lithuania is a very small country as well, right?
Exactly. It's only 3 million people, and
yeah.
I would say we have quite a lot of artists for, for how small the country is.
Yeah, which is what is so fascinating. And I think are you involved in any way with, because I think you're also on the board of the Lithuanian Culture Institute, is that correct?
Yeah, exactly.
Okay, so that also, I guess you're an enabler, and you are, with all your vast experience, you must be also, um, helping in giving direction and bringing Lithuanian art to the outside world. So that, I think, is quite incredible. I've so enjoyed.
And the most important thing that I noticed, at least for the Culture Institute, like what really works and what I really recommend other countries should do is inviting international curators and writers to come and meet artists in person. That's really, it doesn't take that much investment as it appears. It only costs a flight ticket and a free night stay in a hotel, and after those trips that are organized by the Culture Institute of Lithuania, so many times a new project will appear, either in China or in Italy.
Because I think this whole cross-cultural language, of communication and bringing it together, I think, is what you're.
Absolutely, but what I mean is, like, it would cost so much. Well, it would be such a big budget, for example, to bring a local artist and to organize a show in another country and then expect people to see it. But what's much more economical in a way is just to bring the person, for them to do a studio visit with, say, 10 local artists, and then maybe something will come out of that.
And a new perspective, because that's always that always kind of goes a long way, because it's a new way of looking at things from a different culture, and including it and absorbing it is always a great way of learning. So before I sign off, I just wanted, with your vast experience, what kind of an advice would you give to a lot of the young people who are at that stage in their lives now, where they're waiting to, whether they want to be art historians or whether they want to get into art curation? What kind of an advice would you give them?
Mm-hmm. Well, I guess some of the advice I will have is to really explore different subjects, because if you're maybe interested in art history, it's one thing, but then again, you really need to pay attention to what's happening now, and you really need to follow and be interested in many subjects, because contemporary art, it's very connected to environmental issues, political issues, history, even the new technological
so it's very topical. You're saying it's very topical.
Exactly. So just really be curious and be interested not just in art, but also in various subjects, so that you can understand the context of both. And obviously, art history is a great key to start, I think. So even if you know for sure that contemporary art is what interests you, I really encourage you to either do art history first, or just read some art history books and get acquainted, because you'll recognize that a lot of contemporary art is really strongly grounded in art history. And also, I guess my final advice would be, it takes really some time. It's a very competitive field. It will be hard to get a job at the beginning, and you'll maybe need to send 50 applications after you graduate before you get your first job. and it won't be paid so well because it's a culture field. So this is to be expected. But if you're persistent and if you're passionate about the subject, you will succeed in the end. And I guess I have to also say, you must go speak to the artists. You must go to their studios and to see their shows, because art is not something you can just learn about from books. It's really important to, both to see it in person and also to learn the ideas behind it from the artists.
Yeah, that's very, very sound advice. Thank you so much, Juste. I really enjoyed talking to you, and and wish you all the very best. And maybe we'll meet someday in Lithuania or in Singapore, because Singapore is so vibrant now when it comes to the different kinds of art. And and we've got great museums here. So maybe, once you're able to travel to Singapore, it'll be my pleasure to take you around.
Absolutely, I would love that. So hopefully I'll come to Singapore in the next few years.
Yes, absolutely. And me to Lithuania. So thank you very much once again.
Thank you, and speak to you soon.
Yes, will do. Take care. Bye.